Hello, Booktube. Here I am back to talk about more of those great books on Steve's list. You know, he kind of tricked us. He, the other night, I think Sunday, yeah, that's yesterday, he started to talk more about the books on his list himself, which I really enjoy since I'm up on them. Actually, they're piled up very deep around my reading chair. What was I going to say? Oh, he talked about the first in each category, and he talked about a history one, and I hadn't seen a history one, a history list, so I quickly looked back to Open Letters Review, and they had something happened. There wasn't any history list of best history books, so I just badgered Steve. I zinged off a comment and kept badgering him till before long, the history list was up. I think he's probably, he gave me permission to parasite all his book lists at this point. But anyway, so that's 10 more books here. Last time I was complaining because there were no more lists, and the history list is one I really like, probably of the nonfiction, and be the one I was most interested in. So just as soon as I finish here today, up I go again to the library for somebody called it a scavenger hunt, and it's really kind of what it is. I mean, it's just so fun to zip around the library looking at all the other books till I find them. Okay, let's get going with these. All right. I'm going to talk a little bit first about his Science and Nature, Best Science and Nature, which both of these I learned a lot. Just by looking through them. The one I think was #1 on his list was Eager. He's mentioned it many times, and it was great. Now, it's obviously about beavers, and I really knew nothing about beavers. I don't know if I've ever even seen a beaver, but I actually wish they'd had a little few more pictures in it. Anyway, but evidently they call beavers the Swiss army knives that can tackle any ecological dilemma. It's amazing the things they do. They help, with water conservation. They're in watery places. There was one picture that I kind of liked. I don't know if you can see it, but it shows how there's the beaver, there's the culvert, and the water that goes under. And they have a little fence around the culvert so the beaver won't get in the culvert and get it blacked and maybe endanger his own life. And then they have this flotation device that if somehow it gets blocked, the water comes up. Anyway, it keeps it from flooding. So the beaver is very instrumental in all kinds of things. This is interesting. Okay, the other one on his list that I happen to have was Spying on Whales. And this was the author himself is Nick Pienson, works at the Smithsonian, and he's the curator of fossil marine animals. Who knew that marine animals had fossils? And evidently he has been able to trace the change in whales. They started out as a land animal about the size of dogs, and walked around, and then, gradually became bigger. And there's a huge whale fossil dive or whatever in Chile that they're supposedly working against time to go through. I can't imagine what a whale fossil must look like. Okay, anyway, next we have his best biography lists, and I'll repeat again that he mentioned this year there's a lot of unusual biographies, people he didn't even realize he would be interested in until he credits the interest on how well they're written and how thorough and balanced they are. And one of those, I agree, I didn't know anything about, was Bruce Lee, who made martial arts a global phenomenon. He was an Asian American actor, one of the few during that time. And it talks about his struggle as that, and how he started out as a martial arts teacher to some of the famous Hollywood stars that were, going to be doing martial arts. I'm not sure what all that includes, but it involves sort of naked, halfway naked men wrestling around with each other. And this one has a lot of good pictures. he was in movies that I can barely remember, but it has a lot of good pictures of his life and the movies he was in and everything. So that one's really good. The next one I have a personal connection to. I'm really excited to talk about this. It's about Benjamin Rush, who was one of the original signers of the Constitution. He was also a doctor, lived in Philadelphia, very active in medical, with the asylums, etc., and making them more humane. And also he was into education. And he decided they needed some higher education in places besides the eastern big cities in the east. Of course, this was in the 1700s. And so he found a place, what did he call it? In the back country of Pennsylvania to start a college. Now, where he started it was in what he considered the back country, was the town I live in, Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And there is, in fact, a wonderful college. He did name it after John Dickinson, one of his fellow signers there. So it's called Dickinson College, but there is a Rush campus. I've been there many times. They even allow older adults to audit their classes, and I've taken some great English literature classes there. Anyway, so, and I don't think it's really a backcountry town anymore. I mean, it is small, but we're pretty close to Harrisburg. And we have libraries. Okay, so that was interesting. Next, we're going on to some more of his debut novels list. And this one's called Little Disasters. This is quintessentially a New York novel. I like to get vibes of New York City when I'm reading, almost better than going there. But anyway, this takes place, it starts out with, it's on two different couples, and both of the women partners are pregnant and ready to deliver their babies, and the two men meet in the hospital waiting room while the babies are being delivered. And they form a connection, and it goes on to the following years, relationships between the two couples. And he's also very good with atmosphere and scenes, and there is a great scene in the crowded, hot subway of New York that I haven't been in it, but I don't want to, but it sure was easy fun reading about it. Okay, his other debut novel that I'm going to talk about is called Whiskey When We're Dry. Can you see that? It's not very good. Okay, Whiskey When We're Dry. And the author is quite interesting, John Larison. Evidently, he's fairly young. Everybody's young to me. But he traveled around a lot in different places of the world, but he ended up in Oregon, where he was a, what is it called? Renowned fly fishing guide. And while there, he already had an education degree in, I think, philosophy or something like that. He decided to go and get his MFA in Oregon while he was there, and I guess continuing his fly fishing guiding tours, and he liked it so well and started writing that he has remained there as a teacher or professor. Okay, this takes place in 1885. It is compared with things like True Grit because there's a young woman in it who needs to travel, I'll put it that way, goes through things with her father and brother where she's all alone, though she does become a sharpshooter, and it's really interesting. They don't want her to be practice sharpshooting. Her father doesn't, so when he's gone, she has a way of making her own bullets. I knew nothing about making bullets, but it involves cooking some things on the stove in a mold, and it then practices. Very interesting. It ends up with her needing to go north and search for her brother, or go west, and as in many books, it's safer for a man, so she dresses up as a man, and it goes on from there. Quite interesting. Okay, two more. This is from his best mystery list, Charles Finch. This one's called Women in the Water, and I have read some, most of his, or all of his mysteries are parts of series, and as he says, most of them you can get a good author of a series will allow you to get in anywhere, and not, you know, you don't have to read it all. This one is actually a prequel to a series that he already has. Now, I've read some in the series and really liked it. They're called the Charles Lennox series, and he's the main character. But the ones I've liked, it's been a while. It takes place in, he's a well-to-do civilian who decides he wants to be a detective, and in Victorian England. And the thing I like about it, there's this woman, obviously, there's some vibes between them, that lives next door. She's a widow, and she's a very strong character. I really enjoyed her and their interaction in the few, I think I've read 2 of his later in the series. So this actually is a prequel, and it kind of tells how they met and how that started, how he became a detective and everything. So good. Okay, last we have from Steve's romance list, called Devil in Tartan. It really sounds different. Okay, so she lives in Scotland. Lottie Livingston is the main character. Under threat of losing their home, she and her clan take to the seas to sell a shipload of illegal whiskey. Actually, and she takes a devilish Scottish captain prisoner. He's tied captive and forced to watch her commandeer his ship. I think sparks fly there. So anyway, so, well, I'm off to the library to get my holds. I am just having so much fun in this project. I don't care if people watch or not. Can you imagine being surrounded with 70 books handpicked by Steve Donoghue? All I want to do is read, read, read. Okay, see you later. Bye.